Hey guys, today's video we will be once again talking about the tropics because, well, that is honestly the hottest subject right now. We're going to be talking about Grace, obviously. We'll also be talking about Henri because some interesting stuff has been going on with Henri. So let's start out with Grace. And Grace is currently at 75 miles per hour. Its pressure is at 989 millibars. It has moved over the Yucatan Peninsula. It is now bringing pretty strong winds, very heavy rain, flooding rain to the Yucatan. Hurricane warnings are up for that coast of the Yucatan that Grace just made landfall on the Yucatan's Caribbean Sea facing side, the eastern coast, and then tropical storm warnings are in effect for the northern and parts of the western coast of the Yucatan, as well as tropical storm warnings are in effect for parts of the central eastern coast of the Yucatan. Now, Grace is expected to weaken back to a tropical storm as it makes its way across the Yucatan. It is moving west at 17 miles per hour, so it's moving at a decent pace, but it seems like the land interaction will interrupt it enough to bring it down back to tropical storm status. It will emerge back over the Gulf of Mexico by likely later this afternoon, evening, and then overnight it will continue across the Yucatan, across the Bay of Campeche, and it will be moving actually quite fast, it seems, because by tomorrow, early afternoon even, it will be already on its approach to making landfall in mainland Mexico, and hurricane watches are already up, and tropical storm watches are also already up for parts of that coast of mainland Mexico, and then once it moves inland from there, it will just really honestly completely dissipate. So more devastating flooding rains likely, and even strong winds are likely as well, once again, for portions of Mexico. The good news is that Grace will not be impacting the United States, but Henri will, it seems. So let's talk about Henri. Henri is a strong tropical storm, almost a hurricane now, 70 miles per hour sustained winds now, 995 millibars is its central pressure, so it's a pretty... Its pressure is quite high for how strong its maximum sustained winds are, which is interesting. It's moving directly due west at 9 miles per hour, and its current cone forecast from the National Hurricane Center, they're forecasting it to become a hurricane as well by around early to mid-afternoon on Friday, by tomorrow, and as it's curving towards the north, and then it will continue to strengthen, actually, as it continues north. It seems like now its peak intensity could be around 90 miles per hour. And you can see towards the 4 or 5 days out from now, that part of the cone, towards the end of the cone, it's forecast parts of eastern New England and coastal New England are within the cone. Eastern Connecticut's in the cone, very eastern Long Island's in the cone, Rhode Island's in the cone. Eastern and portions of central Massachusetts are in the cone, as well as coastal New Hampshire and coastal Maine are in the cone. It's very interesting because it will likely, as it's curving north, it seems it will be gaining strength, but it could also grow in size. So even areas outside the cone, so areas towards, even central western Long Island, New York City, western Connecticut, central Connecticut, some areas farther to the west and towards western New England, portions of western New England, could see some more major impacts from Henri. Now, of course, this is getting out towards Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And of course, the closest approach and worst impacts could be around that Sunday, Monday time frame, I'm thinking, especially for the Cape, Rhode Island, and eastern Long Island especially. Now, of course, we're still a few days out from then. It's still Thursday, so, we still have tomorrow, we still have Saturday, and getting into Sunday, we'll have to see how Henri progresses, how much it strengthens. We'll see if the National Hurricane Center shifts its center of the cone farther to the west, so maybe the center could be going over parts of New England, or it stays potentially just offshore, or it even ends up going well offshore and just bringing bad conditions to the beaches for a couple days. So again, this will be all something we'll have to watch, continue to move over the next couple days. So be very, very interesting to watch, and likely Henri will also pick up some speed as it curves north. It's only moving at 9 miles per hour, so it's moving somewhat slowly, but once it curves north, it seems like it will definitely pick up some decent speed and start potentially racing even towards portions of eastern New England. We'll have to see. Now let's go to tropical tidbits, and let's look at what the general ensemble models and satellite imagery is looking like for both Grace and Henri. Let's first look at Grace. Grace likely is down to a 70 mile per hour tropical storm, I would say now, as we get towards the 11 a.m. advisory. Though, again, it's now moving inland, but it still has lots of great convection blowing up around the center. It still has some great vorticity, great outflow even as well. So it's moving at 17 miles per hour, so maybe moving fast enough where it might not weaken really all that much, and might not even weaken as much as the National Hurricane Center is expecting before it moves back over the Gulf of Mexico and the Bay of Campeche. So we'll have to see. It could also then, once it enters the Bay of Campeche, it could intensify a bit more than expected. So we will have to see. Now, let's look at the, of course, the model intensity guidance, the GEFS and GEPS ensemble model track guidances. They're all in great agreement of where it will go. The model intensity guidance for its intensity, again, looks like it will weaken a bit. Seems like I'm siding with some of these top few models and keep it around a strong tropical storm. Maybe it'll weaken to, again, 70 miles per hour, it seems, maybe 65, but then it should reemerge back over the Bay of Campeche and then start to strengthen. And most of these models have it strengthening back to Category 1 status and even getting it close to Category 2 status. So the waters are definitely warm enough. The waters in the Bay of Campeche, 30, 31 degrees Celsius, definitely warm enough for some decent strengthening. We could see it even strengthen maybe a bit more than Category 1 or Category 2. Maybe get to Category 3 status. We'll see. But then, of course, we get towards 36, 48 hours from now, around 1.5, 2 days from now. It's already making landfall in Mexico, mainland Mexico, and it will rapidly weaken and then dissipate likely. So looks like Grace will only be a thing for the next couple of days, maybe 2.5 days at most, I'm thinking. I don't think it will really make it across Mexico and survive all the way to the Eastern Pacific. I doubt it, but I mean, obviously that is possible. It is possible, but not likely. Again, so let's look at the Western Atlantic. So so we can zoom in on Grace mainly, and then we'll shift and look at where Henri goes. So again, Grace has now moved over the Yucatan and will likely weaken a bit and back to probably more around just a strong tropical storm. It will reemerge over the Bay of Campeche, and as the GFS is showing, it strengthens back to a pretty strong system. 974 millibars, 970 millibars. That's around strong, probably a Category 2, probably a let's say mid to strong Cat 2. And then it moves over mainland Mexico, bringing, again, very heavy rains, strong winds, like it did to the Yucatan, and will likely bring flooding rains and whatnot. Maybe some of the remnant moisture will make it across Mexico into the Eastern Pacific, but, of course, it really probably won't do much since the water temperatures off that coast is a good bit cooler, so likely won't do as much. Let's show you Henri now. Let's go to eastern U.S., and here's Henri. You can see it continues west, and then around again, here's 12Z Friday, moving towards the afternoon and into the evening hours of Friday. It curves north and strengthens a good bit. It strengthens to 957 millibars, and then really impacts the Cape of Massachusetts, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, those areas especially, coastal New Hampshire and Maine as well, and then it kind of weakens and dissipates across going back to the east across the Gulf of Maine and the much colder waters up there. Now, of course, this could still change. The GFS, again, has tended over the past, especially couple days, bit to the west with Henri, closer, again, getting it much closer to New England, impacting New England more. So, again, this could, again, change and keep it moving farther to the west and maybe impact more towards Connecticut, Long Island, and maybe even towards New York City, even especially the western side of the storm. Which again won't be as big impacts with the wind, but of course still the rain and even maybe some storm surge, which would be interesting, going towards the north shore of Long Island, which would potentially be interesting. We'll see how much wind, of course, there is with that, but of course the wind isn't really as much of a problem as it is with the flooding rain still, of course, as the biggest factor on the western side. Unlike the eastern side, where it's the heavy rains, the flooding rains, the strong winds that would cause a lot of power outages likely, and of course maybe some storm surge into some parts of some coastlines, Rhode Island's coastline maybe, some of Long Island's coastline maybe, Massachusetts coastline, maybe Maine and New Hampshire's coastline. We'll have to see. Again, we'll continue to have to track that very, very closely. Now, I want to now mainly focus on what the European and Canadian models are showing for Henri. Let's go to the European first. And that's not what I want. I want this. Here we go. So here's Henri, and the European model, again, has its strengthening and kind of has it similar to the GFS. Maybe a little further east than what the GFS is showing, but still kind of the same deal, hitting the Cape area of Massachusetts, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, New Hampshire, Maine, and then it kind of stalls a bit on eastern Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and brings a bit more prolonged bad weather conditions of rain, strong winds, and whatnot to eastern and even maybe western New England because of that. And then it moves offshore and moves out to sea. So that is very interesting. That is something to definitely watch there. This Canadian model, let's change it back to the MSLP and precip. And here's the Canadian model. Let's see what the Canadian model shows. It's much weaker. It's a much weaker storm, but it does show it's strengthening and bringing, again, heavy rain, strong winds, potentially to New England. Even pretty heavy rains, again, to Connecticut, all of Connecticut, all of Long Island, even into New York City, and maybe even portions of New Jersey. So this could be a much more impactful New England system if the Canadian is right, and it curves way into Massachusetts and way into the coast of New England. So that'll be very, very interesting to watch and continue to track. So, of course, I will continue to keep you guys up to date as we move into tomorrow and Saturday, and again, as we get closer to that Sunday, Monday time frame of what seems likely is that 2-day time frame of when Henri would bring its worst impacts towards New England. Now, the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season is the Wikipedia page for it. It's been pretty active so far. We've had 8 named storms, 2 hurricanes, because now Grace has become, like I predicted yesterday, has become the second hurricane of the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season. The season so far killed 20 people, unfortunately, and the total damage of the season is now at $1.225 billion in damage. It's already caused more than $1 billion in damage, and we're only in August. Of course, we still have the rest of the peak season to go, and then, of course, all of the end of the end of the season to go. The ACE value for the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season is now at 21.5 units. So the ACE value is continuing to go up because of the fact that we still have some tropical cyclones going on, creating that accumulated cyclone energy. That is what ACE stands for those of you who don't know. Of course, we still have Henri going on and Grace going on. That's the two, of course, main tropical systems we are tracking. Fred is now a post-tropical cyclone and pretty much dissipating now, really. Honestly, it should be gone. It should have been gone, honestly, by yesterday or the day before even, but the Weather Prediction Center continued to issue advisories on it because of the dangerous severe weather threat it brought to a lot of the Appalachian areas, interior of the Northeast and New England. So likely by probably later today and tomorrow, Fred should be fully history and fully dissipated. And then, of course, we'll just continue mainly to focus on Grace and Henri. Grace, again, it is bringing now pretty heavy rain, flooding rain conditions, and strong winds to the Yucatan, and then we'll bring those same impacts, maybe some storm surge even as well, to mainland Mexico's coast in about a day or two or so, around that time frame. And then, of course, Henri, we're going to be tracking it and see how close it gets to New England, how impactful it could be to New England. We shall see. Very, very interesting. Another thing I want to point about Henri, actually, is that when it did originally form, it did form just to the southeast of the New England coastline, and then started diving to the south, going around Bermuda, and now curving back north to around where it pretty much originated from and formed from. And now it's looking to potentially impact New England. So that's a pretty interesting thing. What I would kind of a bit jokingly call, but as well, is it's a pretty full-on, one of the greatest full circle events of the summer. I'm gonna call it that as of right now, and that'll be what I call it for the next couple of days as we continue to track it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys found it informative, helpful. If you guys did, please consider liking the video down below. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you like this kind of content, I please do ask you to subscribe down below. Let's comment down below, have a nice lively discussion down there in the comment section about what we think will happen with both Grace and Henri, what you guys think Henri will do potentially towards impacting New England, and of course what Grace will potentially do to mainland Mexico, and how strong you guys think it will get in the Bay of Campeche before it hits Mexico. That'll be a fun discussion down there in the comment section. Again, please consider liking the video down below, subscribe if you haven't already. If you like this kind of content especially, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.